The United States has issued a warning against helping to fuel Iranian vessels blacklisted by Washington, including oil tanker Adrian Daria. The Treasury Department said anyone around the world who helps fuel Iranian ships sanctioned by the U.S. runs the risk of being designated as well. The U.S. blacklisted Adrian Daria on August the 30th. On Thursday, Pentagon Chief Mark Esper said he currently has no plans to seize the oil tanker. The U.S. had offered several millions in dollars to the Indian captain of Adrian Daria if he steered the ship to a country where it could be seized. The vessel, formerly known as Grace 1, was carrying Iranian crude oil. It was detained by Britain off Gibraltar in early July on suspicion of carrying crude oil to Syria, a charge that Tehran denies. The ship was released on August the 15th. Joining me to discuss this story a bit further are Tawhid Asadi, political commentator, who's joining us via Skype from Venice. I also have the pleasure of hosting Mr. Marcus Papadopoulos. He is a publisher and editor with Politics First via Skype out of London. Gentlemen, it's good to have you both. I'm going to start with our guest from Venice to give us basically his take on the recent development regarding Adrian Daria, please.
Well, I think this is not a very new line, but if you just take a look at the recent developments on the ground, the relations between the United States and Iran, you will see that the United States did its best and tried its utmost to, let's say, stop the ship in Gibraltar. But the thing is that, legally speaking, they were not able to provide the required evidence. So basically, the thing was that they couldn't do anything, and then they couldn't continue the seizure of the ship regardless of their willingness to do so. But basically, the thing is that I can tell you this is not related to this incident, but all in all, for the past 3-4 decades, we have seen that the United States is trying to just develop kind of front line against Iran, and this particular incident could be recognized, could be analyzed within the framework of this long history of hostility between the two countries. So basically, in particular, just back to your question, if I want to talk about this ship, I can say that the United States, again, following the same framework, tried to did all it could to stop this ship, and that then we saw some very much strange courses of action taken by Washington, including writing personal emails to the captain of the ship to direct it to a country so that it could be seized. And then, all in all, what we saw on the ground was that these courses of action that was taken by the United States was not that much successful, and then the ship continues its way, and then this is just another indicative of the very fact that Iranian diplomacy, if given enough chance, could be successful, and it was the case particularly about this incident.
Interesting comments out of Venice. Let's go to London, and Mr. Papadopoulos, let's get his reaction on the issue. Mr. Papadopoulos, please.
Well, the latest actions of the American government in the context of Iran are part of an ongoing and concerted attempt by America to strangle to death the Iranian economy, because Washington considers that the most viable option in collapsing the Iranian government and in destroying the Islamic Revolution is by asphyxiating the Iranian economy. Certainly, the Americans are more than capable and are more than prepared to launch a military campaign of some kind against Iran. But that would be enormously risky, and that would, without a doubt, incur very significant American military casualties. So that is why the Americans have adopted the option of attempting to asphyxiate the Iranian economy. And the Americans are very conscious that without the oil sector that the Iranian government is able to utilize in order to maintain its economy, in order to maintain the prosperity of Iran and for the Iranian people, without the oil sector, then Iran would be in serious trouble. And I will say this too, the actions of the American government, namely, or the latest actions of the American government, namely attempting to bribe the Indian captain of the aforementioned ship and in warning other countries not to trade with Iran in oil, is a reminder to the entire world that the American government acts like an organized crime syndicate. In fact, let me reword that. The American government is an organized crime group. That is exactly how organized crime works. They have no respect for the law. They bribe, they intimidate. And America is the country that we are told by American and British politicians and journalists is the defender of civilization, is the defender of international law, is the defender of democracy. The actions, the reality of America couldn't be any further from the truth. And I think if anyone really wants to understand America's true malignant role in the world, just have a look at how it deals with Iran.
Right. Of course, Marcus, very strong comments about what the American current, at least the current American government, is all about regarding the issue of the Iranian oil and looking at the fact that, what's happening to the Iranian vessel. How do you comment on that, Tawhid, given the fact that Marcus just termed as organized crime what the American government is doing right now? They have the intimidation, writing personal emails, but, apart from this question, the fact remains to be seen whether the countries will actually give in to the demands that are made like that, Tawhid.
Well, the points raised by your respected guest is quite true, and then again, we can take a look at the current situation in which the United States has been located. So with that said, we might take into consideration the very fact that the United States is kind of losing its traditional allies when it comes to this issue, or when it comes to maximum pressure against Iran, or when it comes to military threats. Basically, we know that when it came to military campaign against Iran, the United States didn't have any good experience. They didn't receive any green light from their European traditional partners. Also, the regional alliances were not that much, working in the sense that they could have helped the United States to start such a campaign. And then, economically speaking, you see that Iran has got its old transactions, old trade, regardless of the toughest sanctions on the ground, unilaterally, let's say, imposed against Iran. But back to this recent story, I think it is, again, another very clear indicative of the very fact that the United States is not strong anymore. It has got no alliances the way it used to have, and then the allies that it has do not seem to, let's say, have the expected amount of coordination. First of all, the ship was in Gibraltar. The United States, legally speaking, as far as my knowledge is the matter of concern, did its best up until the latest moment to stop the, let's say, vessel, and then I know that just if they just delayed it for 1-2 days, something else might have happened, which fortunately didn't. And then on the way, as your previous guest said, they tried their, let's say, channels to bribe the Indian captain or asking other countries to do so. But basically what we saw was a strong refusal from other countries, not very strong, but at any rate, we saw that they didn't accept this request to do anything to seize or stop this vessel. And then there was another challenge, and that was selling the oil inside that. And then we saw that Iran was successfully able to manage this challenge and handle it. And then basically this is, as I told you before, this is another indicative.
Sure. Let's hold it there, Tawhid, and perhaps ask the very important question and the last question from Mr. Papadopoulos in London. A warning is in place by the United States right now. How much do you think the countries are going to basically give in to that demand?
with what the other guests just said. America is a superpower. American power is extraordinarily formidable, and America has many alliances around the world. Indeed, America is head of the most powerful military alliance on this planet, namely the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Now, it's certainly the case that American power has declined, and I would put that down to mainly due to Russia being a superpower again. However, whilst Iran is a very strong country militarily, politically, and economically, the Iranian economy has proved itself to be very robust over the last 40 years. My worry is that America's leverage over so many countries in the world could result in those countries turning their backs on Iran. For example, France and Germany. And if that was to happen, then of course, naturally, the Iranian economy will become seriously weakened.
On that note, it's time to say goodbye to our guests, both in London. We had the pleasure of hosting Marcus Papadopoulos, publisher and editor with Politics First. It was good to talk to you, sir. I also had Mr. Tauhid Asadi, political commentator. It was a pleasure to have you on the show as well. Out of Venice, out of Skype, gentlemen, thank you very much. And thank you, viewers, for being with this edition of News Review.